Okay, as said, a key strategy is that you have to translate from these tricky situational questions into the PMI framework, the PMI process groups and such. And I said, don't rely on how you would do things in your real world. Your real world doesn't count right now. So let's delve into that in a little more depth here. So this to me, and especially the last 5, 6 years, has been just maybe the most critical strategy to help students successfully deal with this test. So tricky situational questions, something's gone wrong, and you, in almost all cases, you can narrow down things in the 4 multiple choice answers. You can throw out 2 of the answers. You know they're out of bounds. They can't possibly be right, and you've narrowed it down to 2 answers, but you're stuck. And you really don't have any idea which one's better. So in that scenario, which is going to happen quite a bit, first ask yourself, what process group is this question about? Every question has to apply to one of the process groups, one and only one process group. If you can figure that out, oftentimes that solves your problem. Of the 2 answers you can narrow it down to, one belongs better to that process group. If it's about planning, then one of the answers fits better with what the themes are for planning, and so on. If that doesn't solve the problem, you just keep going deeper. Okay, what process in that process group is probably applicable? And then if you can figure out that, what are its key outputs? What are its key tools? What are its key inputs? If you can get down to that depth, that's almost always going to help you figure out which of the 2 answers is the better answer. So, as we said, these are mostly tricky situational questions, and there are multiple correct answers, or at least at minimum, we can say there are multiple plausible answers. And it's more about judgment. It's not really math, it's not science, it's not logic. You're going to have to trust your senior project management judgments and experience on things and your gut instincts, your intuition sometimes. It's not math. And you don't want to overanalyze things. You don't want to start doubting yourself. You just go with that gut instinct. Do not say things to yourself like, well, maybe they meant this. Maybe from some angle, they might have meant this. No, that's not strong enough. That is too weak a position on which to be deciding how to answer this question. So stick with your initial gut instincts in most cases. Also, sometimes when we're just totally baffled, we're totally stumped, it's better if we just move on for a while. If you got an intelligent guess, put in that intelligent guess, put in that gut instinct, but move on. And surprising things may happen. 10, 15, 20 minutes later, some memory, some insight, some recollection about that previous question that you had totally put aside. It was in your subconscious, and some instinct comes to you about it, and you know now what the correct answer is. This helps us in so many ways. The mind is an amazing thing. Sometimes when I'm trying to do a Sudoku puzzle, I like Sudoku, and I'm just totally stumped on a particular problem in the Sudoku puzzle. If I just put it down, come back 15 minutes later, it almost comes to me immediately. Wow, this was simple. Why didn't I see that? Here's what I do next. And my wife says the same thing. She loves doing crossword puzzles, and sometimes if she gets stumped for a few minutes, she'll just put it down, and if she comes back 15 minutes later, the answer will come to her. So let that process, let that work for you on the PMP exam too. Just sometimes put things down. The mind in the background is still working with that previous problem, and sometimes an insight, memory will come to you, and you'll get that answer correct. Okay, the last point here is you've got to control stress. Somehow, some way, you have to keep a positive attitude, stay relaxed, stay focused. I know that sounds really gratuitous and really easy to say, but nonetheless, that is a must, that you must be able to achieve that. This is a famous Henry Ford quote. He said, if you think you can, or if you think you can't, it's all the same. And the way I reduce that too is if you think you can't, then you can't, then you won't. So you got to be thinking positive. You got to stay relaxed. Go through all these materials, go through all this video training and do all these quizzes. You'll be very, very prepared and you're going to do well on the test. So just try to achieve that state of relaxed concentration.